Hey, Tuna, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, let's start with the usual. How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. Went to the aquarium.
Oh, cool.
Yours?
Yeah, it was nice. I hang out with friends, went stargazing in the dunes, uh, eating pizza, stuff like that. So yeah, we did some night walking. So
Oh,
yeah, it was. I was very tired, so I actually didn't want to go. You know how it goes when you're preparing for going out at night and you feel tired in the afternoon. You go like, oh no, I don't want to go. And then,
night walking like what time?
well, at the end, we went out around 12 at night, so at midnight. Yeah, but
Hmm.
we're not walking just uh, like this, but we're using night vision goggles to watch the stars and to be able to walk. So we all have night vision goggles, and it's like an affordable superpower to be able to see in the dark. So you can see more animals because they can't see you, and you see an enormous amount of stars and satellites. At first, I was shocked how many
Oh, you
satellites you
could
see.
see
Yeah,
the satellite from the night goggles without zooms?
yeah. So with the night vision goggles, because they enhance the amount of light that's being emitted, basically you see more than 10 times the amount of stars than you see with your normal eyes, especially here with a lot of light pollution.
Hmm.
And the amount of yeah, satellites that emit a little bit of light is amazing. You can see 5 to 10 moving around at the same time. They show up like a very dim star, but they move. They move very quickly, and there are so many. I've seen these images where they show you the planet Earth with the amount of stuff that's in orbit. But if you just stare up and you see so many, yeah, um, it's it's a bit scary also because even the skies have been built full because I was surprised to see so many
I see.
at once.
Just Google the stars with night goggles and the images are amazing. I see.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our new thing to walk around with them. And yeah, well, in that particular reserve or tiny bit of nature that we have, wasn't that much to see from the animals. We did hear a lot of owls; they were active, and yeah, we saw some bunnies. I mean, bunnies count,
There were
right?
no snakes.
Hmm?
Snakes or spiders.
No, we're in the Netherlands. We have a few small snakes, but they're harmless, and
Oh, crocodiles.
the spiders are are small. So yeah, so and that it kind of made me think about something I read last week about. Uh, it was the birthday of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he sent around. I think he became like 77 or 78 or something, and he sent around an email letter about 78 lessons, and he shared a few, and one of those lessons really resonate with me because it's not entirely the same. I can maybe get it on my phone or something, but the thing is that um, he says that opportunity need to be seized. So if you want to achieve something, you'll have to at least go for it. Um, and I kind of translated it a while ago in my head to half of the work is showing up. So if you don't show up, you don't commit to something, you don't go. And for him, it's about getting fit and healthy. So it probably translates if you don't go to the gym, you'll never get fitter. But for me, it's also around working out. The idea that every workout counts, even the bad ones, because if you don't go working out, you do nothing, and if you do go working out, you at least do something, even though you have a bad feeling about it because it wasn't your best workout. But it goes for everything. So I use it in how I work with my team members at work as well. You'll just have to show up if you want to achieve something. And it goes a bit further, I think, as well. If you go like say yes, and that's what happened that Saturday night. I was invited. I felt very tired. I could have sent a text. I'm not gonna make it. Sorry guys, it will be next time. But I did go, and then I saw this amazing view of nightlife and the stars, and then yeah, I was home at around 2 a.m. It was very late, but it was worth it. The experience was worth it. So I showed up, and that was half of the work because the other half was my friend making me very nice pizza and then having fun and have a night walk. So yeah, I think the
I think it's I think it's the same with life as well. If you, besides work, let's say, for example, with family, you have to show up performing your duties and responsibilities as probably a partner, a husband or wife, or a parent. And if that changes and you don't show up as a husband, for example, then your relationship begins to go down the hill, and things start to go bad little by little because you don't show up. It could be because of making priority on other things, like probably too much work, right, and less time at home with family, or too much social activities. I mean, there are people with that their job requires them to be outside more often.
mm-hmm.
We are lucky we work in tech, right? So you can spend more time at home. But some people, they don't sit behind computers. They are always in meetings and traveling and everything. So they never spend time at home. So in that sense, they don't show up at home. They don't show up and be a husband or a father. And that goes bad really quickly. But not really quickly, actually. It takes time before you know it. It's so bad that you don't know how to turn things around.
No, it's going to be
Uh,
very hard to fix.
yeah,
But it's also around there. I think there are nice examples for this. One thing that comes to mind is that people that say, "I never win something in the lottery," and then you ask them, "In how many lotteries are you participating?" None, because I never win something. And that's a bit of the thing that will happen when you never win anything. And now I'm not a fan of lotteries at all, but I find the example funny because if people don't believe they're going to have an opportunity, they will probably not participate in trying to achieve something, and then it won't happen. So there's this
yeah.
first step that you, and that's the same with the family thing. You first have to realize that you have to make the move, or you have to show up, or you have to go. Um, and it's also funny that I followed this person Simon on. He's a famous influencer. He helps people achieve their dreams. So he goes out and on the street. I think mostly in the UK, maybe sometimes somewhere else as well. And he asks people. He says, "What's your dream?" And someone says, "I want to start my yoga studio." And then he says, "What's holding you back?" "Yeah, I need some money to start." And then he gives them some money. He just goes, "If I give you the money, will you start the yoga studio?" And then they go like, yeah. And then he says, will you pitch your yoga studio, for example, right now? Because he has like 1 million followers. So the chances are, if you seize that moment and you jump on it, he will use his marketing power to make you start your business. And the thing I like about it, I mean, there's a lot of this. You can have a lot of discussion about how long this will last. But the cool thing is that he really asks people to speak up about their dream, and then he just uh, asks them what's holding you back. And I think we all have dreams. We should all ask ourselves what's holding me back. And um,
Speaking of dreams, I do think it's quite difficult to actually pinpoint what someone's actual dream is
mm-hmm.
and differentiate between a dream and a hobby. You know, people say, "Oh, I enjoy doing this,"
Yeah,
and I want to make it. Or doing it doesn't mean you can turn it into a business. Do anything can be turned into a business, but um, having a hobby and turning it into a business are two separate things.
I think
And
yeah, you're probably right. The only thing that this Simon person does is just trying to have people think about their dream and make a move. And he will probably tell you every hobby can be a business if you believe enough in it. And but
yeah,
for me, it also goes a bit deeper. It's about the amount of fun that I get from my hobbies. I've made quite a few hobbies into sort of a business, and then I started to dislike doing it, and then I
exactly my
and I
point.
and I quit it. So
It's a hobby because it gives you less stress.
yeah,
When you do it, you have
yeah,
fun, you have everything. But once you turn it into a business, then you have some stress. You have to think about marketing, you have to think about customers, you have to think about sales, you have to think about your employees,
yeah,
you have to think about your vendors, everything. Then it becomes stress. It's no more fun anymore.
yeah. That's true. I mean, I did photography a very long time. I loved doing it. I had all the kit, all the professional stuff. Just bought it for my own money, and then I went out and make pictures, and then I started to engage in competition about uh, if there was an event or something, and I would send in my pictures, and I started to win some of these, and then the first time someone came to me and said, "You're a photographer. You're very good. I like your work. Do you want to be my wedding photographer?" And I was like, "Oh shit. Well, okay, why not?" And I did that as well. And then I started to ask some money for it because it's like a day's work, and then you have to make an album, and I started doing that. And after a while, I started to feel resentment in going out with photography, and yeah, in some impulse, I got all my gear. I went to the nearest camera shop and I sold everything to them. And the next time someone called, "Can you be my photographer?" I didn't have to come up with excuses. I just could say, "I don't have a camera anymore." And that's how I dealt with it. And I mean, hindsight, I probably could have dealt with it differently by just saying, "Listen, I don't want to do it. I don't like doing it. So I will not do it for you." But the hard thing is that there were always people you knew, and they always go, "But yeah, but you're
Yeah,
so good," and then you get the a bit of the. It feels like they're not doing that on purpose, but it feels for me it felt like the emotional
you feel
blackmail.
guilty for not doing it.
Yeah, yeah, because and then if then someone else would do it and they would find the pictures mediocre, they would say, "Yeah, yeah, we had some other photographer, but it wasn't as good as you are." And then go, "Oh no." So yeah, that was hard for me to deal with that for some reason. The guilt and yeah. In theory, this
Yeah, that
shouldn't be
was
so hard, right? How hard should it be? But
extreme, but it relieves you of the stress you're going through with having to deal with people making requests. And if it's not like you need the money or anything, it kind of feels stressful
Yeah. Well,
doing that.
I later learned that having hobbies and excelling in hobbies and stopping hobbies is going to be my thing for the rest of my life. So why not? So I kind of embraced that. So I've had multiple hobbies after that and quit those. And luckily, never started them as a business anymore. So they were just a hobby. And
Yeah, hobbies should stay hobbies. We were talking like 2 weeks ago about spending all our life working, and then when you retire, you're too old to do anything.
yeah,
If we turn hobby that we derive some little sense of joy and happiness from into a business that is stressful again, then what is the purpose of life, right?
yeah,
So everybody will say, "Oh, you should turn your hobby into a business. You should do this, you should do that to make more money." But money is never enough, right, for anyone. There's infinite amount of money you can make.
yeah,
It's
and still be unhappy. But that's the thing about
yeah,
very people that have achieved a lot, and then you ask why do you keep going, and I read this story about a millionaire saying I'm afraid to lose it all, so they keep going because they're worried that they will lose what they have. While that is maybe not, I mean, it doesn't really answer the question um, why do you even have it? I mean, if it makes you unhappy and just drives you, but I think that's the difference between people that are from the outside look a bit dull and they don't achieve a high career or uh, don't do a lot of those things, but they are just happy. They're just happy with what they have and where they are. Uh, so that's another lesson I learned that achieving more is not going to make you happy. It's just going to make you want to achieve more because that's how it works. On the other hand, we might need people that want to achieve more for no apparent reason apart from achieving more. I don't know.
yeah,
It's a
yeah. You know, achieving is either probably you were born into, excuse me, either you're born into a family that's always running a business, or running a business has been part of your life from the beginning to since you were born, right? Or you were born poor and you don't want to remain poor, so you're always constantly going for it every time. And when you set a goal, like the guy that said, want to reach a million, you reach a million, then you set another goal, 10 million. I was listening to a podcast last week, and the guy said 1 million go, he reached it, 10 million go, he reached it, 100 million go, he achieved 100 million. And he's still going. Like, okay, so when do you really want to stop? Uh, so uh, we don't have limits, and in all honesty, no matter how big a house is, you can only sleep in one bed at a time. You can only drive a car at a time. You can only fly one plane at a time. I mean, there is we accumulate too much more than we need at any given time.
well,
And it's probably part of the constant fear of losing it all,
it's interesting
or the
discussion.
psychological things. Yeah.
I mean, when I started as a student, I didn't really have much. At certain points in time, I didn't even have a jeans that was intact. So I actually got one from my mom because she didn't want to see me walk around in my damaged jeans while I had no money for a better one or a newer one. And after that, then you finalize that phase, and you start working and you start earning money, and then you start to think that, okay, but this is the plan, this is whole the classical. First you have nothing, and then you build something up, and then you're going to be happy. But that happiness really didn't change over time. In some extent, it even became less happy, because when you didn't have much, you were just busy with working with what you had, and you would focus on making sure you would survive the month, for example, until your new student allowance came in, or your new job on the side uh, give you your salary, and then that was it. That was the scope of your life, was just that the tiny bit of survival, and you had no responsibility to anything else or anyone else than basically yourself. And then you start owning stuff, and then you have to maintain it, and then you have a job with responsibilities, and then you're starting to be part of that whole thing where you have to you can only go on a holiday when you have enough free days. And I'm in Europe, so I have free days, so I can imagine that's not for everyone everywhere. um, and and then you start to be consumed by that whole machine. And after a while, yeah, my wife and I are lucky to be and healthy, and we have had good education, and we have a nice career. And then you move up the, well, what we call the social ladder, and you get more things, but none of that really made me more happy. Sometimes you get convenience and you have more comfort, absolutely.
Mhm.
But and I was talking to people about it, and some people said, well, it's easy for you to say that because you have everything. It's easy to say that having everything is not going to make you happier. But for the people who do not have everything, they still think they need to achieve everything, while they probably can't or won't in their life. So they will keep looking at you like, yeah, you are happy because you have everything. While having everything means you just have, like you said, you can just sleep in one bed or drive one car. And it's not that I have 10 cars, or I'm just a little bit above average achieved, and now I'm on the verge of realizing, well, maybe I don't need more. Maybe I need more time. And having time to do whatever you want is actual wealth, and not working
Yeah.
harder to earn more money to spend on things you don't really need, or you're just gonna buy to impress others. That's not, yeah, the purpose.
Money is money is a good thing to have. It gives you comfort.
Yeah,
You can also use it to buy some time, right? Because if you don't have money, you have to work every day to make up to provide for the next day, something like that.
yeah,
If you have enough to provide for years to come, right?
yeah, yeah.
But the problem that is attached to having money is making sure you keep it. So you develop anxiety. So, for example, if you have 10K, you start thinking, how can you multiply 10K, or how can you make sure it's worth 10K in 5 years,
Yeah.
calculating inflation and whatever that happens, to make sure you don't lose it, doesn't go to zero. So that constant anxiety puts you in a situation where you are not happy with money you have. But it on the other hand, it buys you comfort. You have a roof over your head, you have enough food to eat, you can travel whenever you want and buy whatever you want whenever you want that. So having money is good, but like I said, it doesn't buy happiness. But until you have been in both situations where you are poor and comfortably have enough money, you will not understand that having money doesn't buy you happiness. Someone who's never have enough money would never understand that.
No, and we have this it's based on research where they say around, I think, 70,000 euros income a year is basically the the optimum of where having more money is not gonna give you more happiness. So to a certain extent money is give you happiness, because if you have too little money, you get stress, and that's the other way around. I've In my line of work, I've seen many people with money problems, in debt, and it makes them extremely unhappy. So I think that's a scary thing. It affects your ability to think, and it consumes everything, and really removes the joy of life, because you're always worried: can I pay the bills? Can I stay in my house? Can I feed my children? Um, so that's the downside. But on the other hand, yeah, I think that if you have a car and you have a nicer car, that it's just the same thing with get a salary raise. What they will teach you about salary raise if you have staff. As a company owner, I've read about it, and if I give my staff more salary, if they're complaining, I'm not too happy, and you give them more salary, that work for around 2 3 months, and then they get used to it, and then it's the same. It's not gonna remove any of the unhappiness. It's just a short term fix you can apply. So I think, yeah, the intrinsic motivation for most people comes from a different place. And
Yeah.
but it is sad that how our whole society is built around achieving more, getting more, buying more, and um, and I think governments also benefit from this, because then you have to pay more tax. If everyone goes like, "Oh no, I have enough. I don't need anything. I'm not going to consume. I'm going to pay for a new television while I already have a television. I don't need a bigger one." That is no sales tax, and then people are not motivated to get a better career to pay for their bigger TV. That's income tax that you are missing out. So I understand how the system works, and while progression is measured in the amount of money that the the country makes, but I'm also worried that we're reaching a ceiling where in most households both people, if it's a two-person household, work almost full time. No one has really time to wind down or relax, and everyone is still struggling to enjoy their life, because you're
Mm.
just busy working. I
Yeah.
wonder where it goes. We can't introduce a third person in a household to start working, right? So there's a limit of the amount of time you can spend on working.
Yeah, there is.
But yeah,
Well, it's a journey of life.
it is. And on the other hand, if you want to achieve something, you want to do something, half of the work is still showing up. Like we started with, I really like that one. So
Yeah.
and
You actually start by showing up, so you have to do it.
yeah, the same as us. We show up here every week. We have no
Yeah.
formal tie anymore. There's no other reason for us to be here than both of us want to be here. So I think that's interesting. All right, it's
Yeah, it is.
more intrinsic motivation, and oh well, yeah. And how are things in going in Canada right now?
Things are good. It's quite hot,
Okay.
but pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, nice Canadian
It's
summer.
it's going up to 29, 30, 31 degrees every day,
Oh right. Okay.
which is surprising. But I think Toronto is always warmer than every other cities.
Okay. More a land climate or something.
I think number one is population. I think it's the most populous city in the
Oh.
country. But the other parts are they have Toronto has the best weather in terms of uh, the snow. The winter time is pretty good. The snow is good. The amount of rain is not that much
Uh,
compared to other provinces or cities. It rains a lot. It either rains a lot or snows a lot
yeah, yeah,
uh, in some other places. But here it's always moderate.
yeah. Well, weather-wise, in the Netherlands, it's been strange that last few years we had long terms of no rain, and this year it has been raining for a very long time. It only stopped like 2 weeks ago, but the weather is still very moderate in the sense that it's not a very high temperature. We had a few days of like 24, 25, 26 degrees, and now it sticks around 21, 22 degrees. At night, it stays warm. So if you go stargazing at night, it's around 70, 80, 90, 20 degrees. It's not cold, not much wind. So it's a
Did you
very peaceful weather right now. Um,
the two times I've been in the Netherlands, it didn't rain. You know, probably I came not in the rainy season. Came in May and August, and there was no rain. It
okay.
was
Yeah.
maybe light showers.
No, I mean, I was walking in the dunes, and there were still areas in the dunes that usually are dry because people use them to plant some vegetables and stuff, and they were still flooded. So it's the sheer amount of water that had dropped this year that's very big. Uh, so year to year, it's obviously it's not raining permanently, and we have some dry periods. But what you saw in the previous years that it would not rain for maybe 6 or 8 weeks, and then we had the whole discussion about small fires, bushfires starting because all the grass was dry, and in some areas of the country that has more sandy soil, then the water levels in the ground would be too low to pump up water for the farmers or to spray your garden or whatever. I mean, I live below sea level, and we haven't had a shortage of water yet.
Yeah,
The only thing what you do see is that if you live below sea level and the sea is higher, and you need enough sweet water on this side to keep the salt water at bay. So if the sweet water isn't coming in because of rain,
sweet water.
yeah, like the sweet, how do you call it? Or just drinkable water that comes from the rivers
Uh,
and
Fresh water.
fresh water. Yeah, in the Netherlands we call it sweet water. It's not actually sweet, fresh water. So you need fresh water to keep the salt water at bay. So if the fresh water level goes down, then the salt water in the soil
Goes in.
goes in, and then you get problems with vegetation and stuff like that. So there needs to be a balance. So we have a government
Is there a way to
organization.
control that?
Hmm?
Is there a way to control to make sure the salt water doesn't go into the soil?
Yeah, yeah. So we have a government organization that's in charge of managing that water. So that's specific for the region below the sea level, and they manage the water levels, and then manage the water quality. And that's also the organization that keeps the water level in the dunes and other areas higher this year to prevent the problems we had the last few years with low water. Usually they pump away a lot of water in spring to make sure that in summer you can use the agricultural areas easily with your tractor. It's not too muddy. And this year they decided to leave it a little bit higher. But because it also rained a lot, everything became very, very muddy. So the farmers were a little bit upset again, and it was harder to get a good yield of your field because many vegetables and fruits had a hard time growing.
Mm.
Too wet is also not good. So for us, it's a bit strange. So the one year it's too dry, and the other year it's too wet. So I think we'll have to learn to become way more flexible and be able to keep water when it's dry, and to yeah um, give the water back to the sea when it's too much. Because this winter, the first time where I ever know is that the water levels in the lakes were very high. So
I think there is a famous architectural construction that was done probably in Thailand to control that kind of is it called irrigation or something?
okay, well, we we have a
Um,
lot of buffering, and um, the rivers can go very big, and we can all yeah it's all managed, because the Netherlands is very tiny, and we are very aware of our vulnerability. Um, but because of the changes the last 5 years, you see that the discussion has shifted. That we will have to do a lot more, a lot faster. We don't want to get flooded. I mean, having a shortage of water is a problem, but being flooded is also not so great. And that's a bit of an understatement. But yeah,
yeah,
we're not the only
I,
country having to deal with this, obviously.
yeah, I think that there's an interesting way that Thailand is dealing with their flooding. They built something very unique. I don't know how to explain it. It's like a flat land that can bend, shift depending on where they want the water to go, either up
Oh,
or down. So it can go up or down,
oh,
and
okay.
it's a huge dam. I'm explaining it wrong, but I read it about a few years ago, but it was interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Netherlands is basically a delta area where a lot of the rivers that come from the Alps, from Europe, they just exit near Rotterdam, for example, the famous port. But if you have spring tide, then the water level from the sea will be higher than the inland, and then we will have flooding. So what they do then, they will just block the sea access, and they will let the river flow against the dam on the inside, and they will protect the inlands with those. It's a very smart um, way of working with water, and it was built after the last floodings in the 50s. That's like 70 years ago. Um, Hundreds of people lost their lives because of the sea coming in and flooding the backlands. And after that, they created this delta works with all kinds of moving dams, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. But we now see that this is not going to be enough. We'll have to do more. The things have changed, and they will keep changing, and we'll have to adapt. It's one of the one budget things in our government budget. There's not that much discussion about. It's usually, oh, that's a lot of money, and then they go like, well, you're gonna have wet feet or spend a lot of money. Well, let's do it. And then they make the dikes higher, or they invest in new seawall protection, and these projects are just insanely huge, and need permanent maintenance. It's not something you
Yeah,
can stop. But I think, I mean, if you live on the Maldives, or you live in the Philippines, or in Thailand, I think sea level changes affect millions of people, because everyone lives at the coast, and we build many cities at the coast. So
yeah, and the Philippines has a lot of highlands, more highlands, right?
yeah,
And they suffer from typhoon and hurricane a lot.
yeah,
So it's not just the sea level going up; it's also the hurricane affecting them and
yeah,
destroying everything.
yeah. That's the thing in the Netherlands as well. The amount of water that falls down now is changing rapidly into levels that's not easy to digest by the system we have to work with the rainwater. So yeah, this summer we had more floodings in cities because of the rain than in the last decade before. So it's insane. It's just, and then you see these images of flooded tunnels and flooded streets and people surfing down um, the living areas. But yeah, we'll see how this goes in the future. At least
Yeah.
if you're into climate change and weather and or a meteorologist, you'll have a blast because it's going to be very interesting.
I haven't been into that topic recently.
No. So I think our time's up.
Yeah, gotta go.
All right.